Here we are in our second edition of the Coach's Corner with Coach Eddie Henning, which is now sponsored by True Photography by DJ. DJ takes care of all athletics and other pictures throughout the HLV community, ranging from games, prom, homecomings, and everything in between. Look her up on Facebook at True Photography by DJ. First off, I have to say thank you to Danny Davis and Sportscast Media for allowing us to broadcast and bring this Coach's Corner to all of you. Also, big thanks to all the faculty at HLV and Tri-County. We work with ADs Bojack at HLV, Amanda Sowers at Tri-County, HLV Principal Mark Tegler, and HLV Superintendent Brad Hohensee. So, Eddie, you and the Warriors came up a little short this week versus the EV Bears, falling 52-32. After playing a team that was on the same level competition-wise as you, what do you take out of that game positively, and what are areas the Warriors can improve on going on?
Yeah, off the bat, tough loss for sure. Like you mentioned, going up against really our first competitive game of the year and good competition, but something that's within our grasp, right? And we fell up short, 52-32. I'd say positives. We won the second half and we brought the effort, even being down at that deficit at halftime. We talk a lot about old habits and new habits. Some of our old habits definitely came back to start with, but I was really proud of the guys in the fact that there was no lay down. There was no, we're beat, so we're going to quit trying. Let's get the backups in, get them some time, and get out of here, right? Didn't let the clock start running. We kept battling and ended up, winning the second half in the terms of scoring and really shut them off once we got into the second quarter for the most part. The problem there is, right, when you spot somebody 20 at the beginning of the game, it makes it really hard for the rest of the stretch. So definitely some places to improve is going to be, we've got to lose those old habits that we have going into a competitive game, right? You guys could probably see it from the sideline. We noticed a difference, as soon as we stepped out for warm-ups in how we approached Meskwaki. So the good thing is we know we can do it. We know where we need to be. And like we talked about last week, limiting our mental mistakes and staying locked in from the beginning to the end, that's going to be the key. But we saw some really good fight at the end of the game. We saw a lot of tightening up on our assignments. So you know what? There's a lot that we did positively throughout the game. But great lessons for us to learn to take into the rest of the stretch.
For sure. So, like you're saying, mental mistakes. We didn't have a lot of penalties. I don't think you had very many at all, really. False starts or offsides or anything like that. EV really had a lot, and we just couldn't take advantage of them. Mm-hmm. So I think on that side of the aspects, you guys were head and shoulders way more disciplined than the other team. So seeing stats. And Keegan attempting 24 passes and completing 8. Is there something you can build off of that, or are we going to continue to see the big shots down the field? There were a couple of miscommunications between Chase Harriman and Keegan on deep curl routes or go routes, whichever one was called, where Keegan thought Chase was running a streak. Is that just a lack of chemistry between the two since it's Chase's first year with HLVTC?
Yeah, so to start at the beginning there, Keegan threw some great balls in the game. Some of those deep balls were really impressive. He was running the ship, right? But there's some things that, like we mentioned, old habits that we're going to tune up on, right? We've been working a lot this week to make sure that we're really keying in on our reads and taking what the defense has given us, not just trying to make a big strike. And when you're behind, it can be really tempting to try to go for that big strike, right? And a lot of those guys had a step, they were open. But we want to make sure we're going to take what the defense has given us this week, take those under routes when they're open. That's going to open up those big plays later on and open up our run game too, loosening up some of the pressure we saw. In regards to Chase and Keegan, that's a mixed bag there on who's who, depending on what was called. But at the end of the day, it's just reps, and it's still a new offense. We still got some guys getting comfortable with it and getting comfortable locking into those things that we know they can do in practice, right? So it was hoping to have some more of that cleaned up, but we're going to get it cleaned up. It's just going to take some reps.
Right, definitely. We're only in the second week of a brand new coaching staff and different HLV. I mean, like you said, it's the same HLV, just a new step in the culture. Or I don't know how you said that. How do you say that at the beginning of the year?
New era.
New era, right. Same culture, new era. So we're getting mixed into more pass. I don't think we've seen a lot of passing throughout the years. I think maybe when Dalton Kriegel was back there passing, maybe we saw a little bit more passing. But now I enjoy the passing game because it's just exciting. That first play of the game, you ran that that deep in and out route to Sean, and boom, it was wide open for 30 yards. I mean, it was a perfect ball. And then, like you said, Keegan delivered really good balls that whole first drive. So Kale Weiskup was successful on the ground with 16 carries and 150 yards. Do you try leaning on him a little more moving forward, or you stick with that passing game and maybe just the short routes?
You know, we're definitely not going to give up on the run game because, first of all, Kale, an awesome running back, an asset to have in the field, both for the run game and the pass game, really allows us to do a lot. And he's gotten way more patient reading his blocks this year, did it again against EV, and it paid dividends, right? So we're not going anywhere when it comes to the run game. We'll just be looking to expand what we can run our run game out of. We struggled in a few of our formations to do what we wanted for whatever reason, whether it was getting the right read, whether it was getting the right block, stepping over, handling the big guys that we were seeing last week. Our next step in the run game is going to be doing that out of all the formations we want to do so in and really open up that mix that we want to get to, right? So we're not looking to just be straight air raid. Definitely want to pound the rock a little bit too, but we want to get a mix that's going to complement both sides of that run-pass mix.
Right, and like you said last week in our first Coach's Corner, I mean, going from Meskwaki to now EV, you're working on your bones, the base of your offense, and you just keep building. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a 3, 4, 5 week thing, maybe a whole season thing. It just till the kids get comfortable. So, reminder again, this Coach's Corner is brought to you by True Photography by DJ. DJ takes care of all the athletics and other pictures throughout the HW community, ranging from games, proms, homecoming, and everything in between. Look her up on Facebook at True Photography by DJ. Going into next week, we got to play the Waco Warriors. Preview how you think the game will go versus Waco, who beat Winfield last week 41-22. We'll go this Friday night down to Wayland. That's a long drive. At least it's your longest haul of the year. I mean, you don't really have any others.
It's always either going to be them or Winfield. So
right.
At least we're not doing them both in the same year.
Right,
this year.
definitely, 100%. In the season series or the series between Waco and HLV, they're on a 5-game win streak against us. How do you and your team end that streak?
Yeah, regarding that, Waco is always a fundamentally sound team that's well coached. They have a solid identity. They have a solid culture. They're what you look to be, a solid banner program year in and year out. So they do a great job down there of doing that and developing their guys to be the best football athletes they can be. So definitely a challenge coming up. We're kind of looking at probably seeing in some ways a lot of what we saw this last week, just from a bird's eye view, right? They've got a really big lineman that knows how to use his hands, that's physical. They're a physical team, just like EV was last week. They want to pound the rock instead of looking more to power. They're going to look more to their inside zone and their unbalanced set. But then they're going to spread out, and they're either going to try to put their athletes in space with the sweep, or they're going to try to catch you sleeping and get those pop passes and leak a tight end out, right? So a lot of what we saw from last week. So that can be kind of a bittersweet thing, right? We ended up losing last week against that look, but at the same time, we know what we need to clean up coming into this week. So we're going to get our pass defense dialed in, make sure that we understand our coverages, that we are being disciplined to stay on those even if the quarterback rolls out of the pocket, understanding our fits and going in with the best look that we can to stop that. We saw great glimmers against that last week, like offensive rhinos. We didn't have too much pressure. We limited what they did, even giving up a pretty good size advantage. I think we only gave up 1 sack against that, getting a lot of 4-man, 5-man pressure from EV. Waco's not generally as much of a pressure team as EV is, but they've got solid guys that are going to be up front. So we're going to have to rise to that challenge. We're going to have to make sure that we lock in on our fundamentals from the beginning this week. If we do that, I'm feeling pretty good walking into Friday.
Is that big kid you talk about that same kid they had last year? Was he only a junior last year?
Yep.
He was an animal against. He was a handful against us last year.
Yes,
for sure. What are the points of emphasis this week in practice? I mean, I know you kind of hit on some of them, but just go in more deep depth on them.
Yeah, big emphasis this week in practice, I would say, is getting what we know we can be, what we walked into the second half as, making that our default, right? Because when pressure's on, when you walk in and the butterflies are fluttering your stomach and you walk on that Friday night field, right, you're going to fall back on what your training is. You're going to fall back on your default. So we've been really focusing on doing everything we can to make our default this new type of football team that we want to be, right? And not going back to how it felt walking into a game last year or in previous years. So that's been the biggest thing. Some other things that we've been looking at is really dialing in on making sure we're squared away on our assignments, right? Getting more of those looks where they want to leak out a tight end into coverage and making sure we rep that. That we're not coming off of that guy to come down onto a quarterback, getting reps isolated to see those types of looks and throughout the rest of their base run offense and against kind of their what we would call an overhang look, right? A four-man front with a stand-up linebacker that's covering the C gap. So how do we make our reads and how do we make our calls to get our stacks up in the run game? So working fundamentals, making sure we are squared away on our fundamental assignments, our fundamental techniques. So that's our baseline walking into Friday.
For sure, and you keep saying fundamentals, and I love it because as a coach coming to the new program, or not new program, but taking over the program, that's what you got to do. And like you said with Waco, it's been like that since I was in school. I went through school 05 to 08. I've been playing varsity football, and same thing. They've always been fundamentally sound. Like you said, you want to base what you're doing, model it after them. So. Yep. Looks like they have a running back, quarterback, whatever. I think he's a do-it-all guy. Hayden Shellman, who's their do-it-all, passing 12 for 16 and rushing 38 times for 340 yards. I think that was last week. No, that was for the year. How do we take him out of the ball game, or is he going to get his and limit everyone else?
Yeah, like we mentioned, their first go is going to be the run game. They do inside zone really well. They get four legs on two really well, and they get a vertical push, right? So that's their default. If we do our fits and do our scheme correctly, how we've got it schemed up going into this week, kind of similar to what we talked about last week, right? You make them go to their second option, and then we cover the second option really well. We're going to be in a good spot. If you look at their breakdown, they're against Winfield, they're about 75% run. So they want to pound the rock, right? And that's often what successful football looks like. So you make them go to the second option, and then we cover that second option well, and they get into the third, their fourth. Okay, now we're looking into a ball game that we can be a part of and compete in.
Right. Good stuff there. Who do you have to thank for making this first year a fun one for you and your coaching staff? I know you're all green, like you said, but I just want to have you give thanks to people.
Yeah, for sure. First off, I would be very remiss if I didn't give a thank you to my lovely wife, Jade Henning, for letting me do this and being such a supportive spouse and letting me get away with being gone all this time and being over here at a game that I love and everything like that. So literally could not do it without her. So she deserves all the thanks in the world. And I'm sure that Cody would say the same about Sterling on his end of things. And Zach would probably give a thank you to his family for letting him come over and sneak away from the farm every day to come over. And then beyond that, obviously, Bo is a huge help. The parents are a huge help. We did our parents, did a dad's breakfast during preseason that was a lot of fun. It was a great way to kick off pads. And then, our team moms that help us out and get us a really good meal going into Thursday nights. It's always amazing. That's a huge help. And there's so many people out there that make this go. As you know, football programs is one of the most involved sports you can coach, and a football program takes a lot to do, and there's a lot of people, too many to name, that make this all happen. But you folks know who you are, so thank you all for all of the help that you give to make this program go and to really launch us into what we're trying to do this year.
That's awesome. That was perfect. Thanks a lot for your time, Eddie, and best of luck this Friday versus Waco. We'll try to keep doing this every Wednesday, and we'll be live each week on www.thewarriorcast.com. And I'll also repost on my YouTube and share to HLV Athletics Facebook site. HLV TC will be away versus Waco and Wayland. Reminder, hopefully Zach Geringer will be there this week, but Zach Schrapp and I will definitely be there. Starting at 6:45 with kickoff at 7. Thanks again to Danny Davis and Sportscast Media for allowing us to do this each and every week. And also big thanks to True Photography by DJ for coming on as a sponsor for the Coach's Corner. DJ takes care of all athletics and our pictures throughout the HLV community, ranging from games, prom, homecomings, and everything in between. Look her up on Facebook at True Photography by DJ. Thank you, Warrior fans, and hope you tune in Friday for a listen.